Okay, it is 6:30 and I'd like to call this meeting of council to order and acknowledge that the city of Winkler is situated on Treaty 1 land, the home of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples in the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories, acknowledge that there have been harms and mistakes in the past, but we dedicate ourselves to a future based on respect of all peoples, including Indigenous communities, in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration, moving forward to a harmonious and prosperous future together. Therefore, be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of March 26, 2024 be adopted. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Marvin?
You see the agenda in front of you. Do you have any additions or changes? All in favor? Carried. We will acknowledge as well that Councillor Fraze is traveling today and not able to join us this evening. Moving then into the minutes of our last meeting, be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 12th, 2024 be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second.
Michael?
Any comments on those minutes in front of you?
Nope.
All in favor? Carried. Moving into correspondence, you will see the note there from with regards to our education support levy and the details of it. Jody, at this point in time, there's nothing further for us to do. It's administration's job from here to carry it to the tax bill.
That is correct.
Thank you. Any comments on that? Continuing then. Be it resolved that the accounts payable in the amount of $1,307,741.98 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Don Friesen?
As always, the check register is attached. Do we have any questions on what we see? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the Fire Committee minutes of March 13th, 2024 be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second.
Michael?
Do we have any comments out of those minutes?
No, just that our fire department, Richard and his crew there, they are constantly looking at making things better for the fire department, making it easier for the fire department when doing calls and such, and they're just doing, I'm very, very proud of them. They're doing a fantastic job.
Nice, thank you very much. And it is nice to see the different pieces that we're exploring in terms of what are more effective, better ways of fighting fires that are going to be better for the community, get those fires out more quickly, yet keep our members safe.
Yeah, even from the fires that we had in the past, those large fires, Richard is, our fire chief, is looking at ways to where we could have minimized damage if we had the equipment that is now being pursued.
Yeah, it's a really interesting piece. Good to see. Thoughts or comments past that?
Well, any calls that we've had are few and far between. I think we are about projecting just over 100 now, and last year we were 220 at the end. So,
wow. Hopefully that stays
nice,
that way.
yeah.
It would be nice for that crew to get a bit of a rest this year.
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting of February 13th, 2024 be adopted. Mover?
Don Friesen?
Second.
Don Fair.
Okay. Anything there that we should pay particular attention to?
No, I don't think so.
Straightforward?
Yep.
All in favor? Carried. That takes us to bylaw 2316-24. Be it resolved that that bylaw 2316-24 to rezone Salem Home be read a first time. Mover?
Marvin?
Second.
Don Friesen?
Jody, is there anything here that, past the notes we see that we should be particularly aware of?
Nope, just trying to consolidate some of their properties.
And as you see there, this is 116, 126, and 200 14th Street, from residential to institutional, as they're, as Jody mentioned, consolidating their properties. This is something that we're aware of. This is something that we've seen coming. Mostly a housekeeping duty at this time. All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that the following amendments be made to Schedule A and Schedule B of the Fees and Charges Bylaw number 2285-22. Mover.
Andrew?
Second.
Don Fair.
Okay. Jody, I'll ask for your help here a little bit to make sure that we know exactly what we're looking at.
So minor changes here to Schedule A and B of the Fees and Charges Bylaw. Some of that is clarifying some wording for the water and sewer connection fees. No policy changes proposed. Schedule B amendment adds the permit refund tables that were approved at the March 12th planning meeting. So that has to do with once our staff have worked on a file to sometimes a fair extent, and then the application may be pulled. There's some adjustments there to the refund fees for the refund of the application fees. And then there's a little bit of consolidation on the when it comes to portable signs, just on-site versus off-site portable signs.
Okay. Anything else from council? Any questions of Jody?
Appreciate the tracking copies there too.
Yeah, it's very nice to be able to see what items are being changed, so that you
Indeed.
don't have to dig through the whole piece to try to find them. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the Central Manitoba Tourism Minutes and supporting documents for the March 11th, 2024 meeting be received for information. Mover.
Michael?
Second.
Marvin?
Anything there, Michael, that you need to highlight?
That was the first meeting I got to join in on since my appointment, so that was exciting. And similar to her presentation here, June is very passionate about this group and is working hard to get some traction for it.
It's very nice to see activity there again, absolutely. Anything else from council? All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the South Central Regional Library Winkler Branch meeting minutes for the February 12th, 2024 meeting be received for information. Mover.
Don Fair.
Second.
Don Friesen?
Minutes are attached. Anything we should be aware of, Don?
Nope, everything is going good there. Attendance is still doing well, and a lot of extracurricular game nights and activities that can involve more of the people in the different municipalities.
Very nice.
Doing a very good job with that.
Good to hear. Not seeing anything further. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. That takes us to public hearing for conditional use number CU 2024-004 and variance number VA 2024-005 for 557 North Railway Avenue. Jody.
So we do have a number of public hearings today. So as usual, the format is that I'll introduce it, and then Mayor Siemens will take over. And if anybody wants to speak to the issue, we'd ask you to come up to the mic, state your name and address. And one of the reasons that we're doing this is because we live stream our meetings. And so we want everybody who's watching online to be able to catch everything that's being said. And then you can address your comments to the chair, and he'll guide you from there. So this first one is a combined hearing Both of these applications have the same applicant and owner. Applicant is K-Block Developments and owner is Central Community Homes. Location here is at 557 North Railway Avenue. The request is in order to construct a 28-unit apartment dwelling, and the multi-unit dwelling is a conditional use in the current zoning, which is CG Commercial General. And then the variance, same applicant and owner and location, here is to request a reduction in the minimum number of parking stalls from 42 to 23, to increase the maximum density allowed from 20 dwelling units per acre to 27 dwelling units per acre. And this again is for the same purpose of constructing a 28-unit dwelling at that location. And our office has not received any objections to either of these applications. You have some notes there as well as a report to council.
Thank you very much, Jody. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this?
Good evening. My name is Frank Clausen with K-Block Developments. Just seek your approval to on this conditional use to build a building to help with the affordable housing needs. The demand or the need is just rising. I think about a year ago when we applied for this same building at 224 Victoria, the number was at about 100, and that just seems to be increasing of the need that's out there. This is the same building actually. This was actually, we initially designed this building for Central Community Homes at a different location, and they were then able to acquire this place, or 557 North Railway. So that's our intent, is to build this apartment unit, 28 suites with a common room on the main level. And again, with the people that'll be using or occupying this space, a lot of them don't own a vehicle, so that's the reason for the variance on the parking. So it's also a really good location for this project because the people living there can walk to some services right down Main Street. So, yeah. Other than that, within the current zoning, the height meets what's permitted. Setbacks are all there. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Anybody else who wishes to speak for this? If there's anybody here who, sorry. I was a little quick there, Dave. I'm sorry about that.
Always too slow. Dave Cowsor from Central Community Homes. Just here to answer any questions if there are. We partnered with local developer Frank Clausen from K-Block Developments in order to construct an apartment building that is really needed in not only in the downtown but for a lot of the people that we are serving at Central Community Homes. Affordable housing continues to be a challenge in the community. Rental market continues to be a challenge in the community, and so this is needed. And like Frank said, the location is excellent. So walking distance to services, and we feel the ask we have here for the variance is not significant.
Thank you, Dave. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone here who would like to present concerns or speak in objection? Not seeing anyone there. Council, is there any questions you'd like to ask before we close hearing and debate?
No.
Not seeing any. Be it resolved that the public hearing for conditional use application number CU 2024-004 and variance number VA 2024-005 be closed. Mover?
Marvin?
Second.
Don?
All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that conditional use application number CU 2024-004 be approved. Mover?
Marvin?
Marvin got it. Michael got the second. Any comments or questions?
Yes, comments maybe on both of them. I think that, like with both this one and the next one, approval of variance, I agree with the proponent that the need for parking spaces probably isn't as great as it would be for some others, so that, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And the location, again, it's a super good location for the type of building it is. It's close to downtown, where anything anybody needs is within quite easy walking distance. So I think I'm very happy to support it, happy to see the work, and thank you for the work that you've done on it.
Additional comments? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variance number VA 2024-005, subject to a development agreement including affordability criteria in exchange for density bonusing. Mover.
Don Fair?
Second.
Andrew, go ahead.
Andrew snuck it in. Andrew is the second on it. Any comments?
No.
All in favor? Carried. I will echo Councillor Platt's comments. This is a good project. It's nice to see, and it's the right place for it. Moving then to public hearing for conditional use number CU 2024-003 and variance number 2024-004 for 224 and 234 14th Street. Jody.
Yes, so this is again another combined public hearing. Applicant and owner for both are Do It All Builders on behalf of owner 6662618 Manitoba Limited, as mentioned on 14th Street. And the subject and purpose here is for the construction of a multi-unit dwelling in the R1 residential zone. So we have the conditional use, that is the reason for the conditional use, to construct the multi-unit dwelling. The variance application is to reduce the required interior set yards from 5 feet to 3 feet 9 inches on the north side, and to reduce from 5 feet to 3 feet 9 inches on the south side. And once again, we do not have any objections to these applications. There's a few shared notes there for council and the report.
Thank you very much, Jody. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this proposal?
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
There we go.
Appreciate that, thank you.
That's
A
too far.
comment from the gallery, just to make sure that the screen had the current agenda piece in front of it. Not seeing anybody wishing to speak for this. Is there anyone who wishes to express concern or speak in objection?
My name is John Funk. I live at 241 14th Street, which is right across the road. Pardon me. I have a concern that we're going to rebuild it into a site that does not meet with what is currently happening on that end of the street. I'm fully aware that Salem Home is owner of the southwest portion of 14th Street, and I'm aware that the houses that are on the west side of 14th Street are challenging. We'll just say they don't meet the rest of the neighborhood. On the east side of the street, the first 6 houses that are there have been renovated or upgraded in some form within the last 10 years. My concern is that whatever is built on the other side doesn't meet with the feel of the street as it stands at this point. I'm not in objection to a multifamily dwelling. I just want it to meet with what the current neighborhood is. We have in the past 10 years seen 3 incidents where our police services and emergency services have been out on the street for various reasons. And we have seen those troubling tenants leave the area. And I appreciate whatever has happened to keep us safe and to improve the community. I just want to have the people making this application provide some sort of assurance that it's not just going to be absentee landlords with tenants that are difficult.
I appreciate those comments, John.
It's not in my backyard thing, it's just I want someone to be on top of it.
Appreciated and valuable comments. I very much do appreciate that. I'd like to give the proponents an opportunity to respond if they'd like. And you will note as well, John, that the concept drawings are now on the screen as well. So it gives you an opportunity to see what's being planned for that area.
Good evening. I am Abe Wall, owner of Do It All Builders. I'm proposing to build this project on 14th Street. First, they're all being sold, so these are not tenant landlord situations. They're all sold, and they're all pre-sold. So the first three buyers, they're seniors. The fourth ones are just right there. So.
So the intention is owner occupied.
Owner occupied. It'll be subdivided into 4 parcels of land. Each one will have their own land. The reason for the side yards, just to fit what we need to fit onto there. I know it's tight, but for emergency personnel to get to the backyard, lots of room. There's a back lane there. There'll never be houses back. Well, I shouldn't say never. Don't know what the future is, but yeah, there's lots of access for fire and rescue to get to the backyards, and we plan on keeping as many trees there as possible. I know the one house that was removed did create a lot of problems there, the tenants there. I talked with the homeowners that owned the house before I bought them, and yeah, the second one is also not, it was not to be repaired, like it was in very dilapidated shape, couldn't be repaired, so. Concerns with tenant landlord issues is that the reason for this development, this is my comfort zone. I don't like to build way up. This is what I like to do. It's what I've done a lot of, and I think this will fit into the neighborhood, same as my other projects always have. I'm not going up high to ruin anyone's privacy or anything like that. I like to keep as many trees as possible, and yeah, just have another place where maybe people that are retiring from out of town, which all of these are, almost all of them are, that they have a place to go maybe just before they move next door. Very good. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Abe. Thank you very much. John?
Right. I haven't had a chance to see these images before, so.
Okay.
And that explanation is great.
Okay. John's comment for those who are online, he appreciated the comments, hadn't seen the drawings before, but he's happy with what he's seeing at this point. Anybody else wishing to speak to this?
Hi, my name is Peter H. Fraze.
Good evening, Peter.
Putting my Salem Home Board hat on today. Salem Home just wanted to come for some information, and I think the drawings have, answered a lot of our questions. We were worried about the parking as to where the parking would happen, and I take it most of the parking will be inside in the garages. Also, we were worried about the traffic impact to the area. Do you expect increase in traffic along 14th Street and the back lane? Will the back lane also be used for access to these lots, or?
I think those are excellent questions, Pete. I'll again give the proponent an opportunity to respond if Abe would like to do so.
Thanks for those questions, Pete. To increase traffic with these projects, they're intended for, and they are sold to seniors. They don't tend to leave and come back very often, in that ways. And The way I've sold them, no one has intended to build fences on their properties yet. They tend to like the open view of everything and be able to see as much as they can. So I won't speak to say that someone won't use the backyard to access their rear yards at this point, but I don't intend to put driveways or nothing from the back. That would be their own yards in the future to do with it what they would want, right? So.
Okay, Abe, you also mentioned the fences, so there's no fences going up?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Then maybe I just have a question for the council as well. You know, we're kind of curious as to what your plan is for that whole area there in the future. Salem Home would like to know, you know, when we plan how we want to expand in the future, how this may affect us in the future as well. Do you have a plan moving forward for that area?
And I think specifically for that area, I don't know that we do have a plan yet, and certainly as Salem Home being a large landholder in that area, any conversations that would happen would involve Salem Home. But I do have Scott Taves here, who's our Director of Engineering, Infrastructure and Engineering, and I'd love to give him an opportunity to speak to that if he would like to.
So for the benefit of those online, Scott Taves, Director of Planning and Infrastructure. Regarding the question for longer term plans for the vision for that area, there aren't any formal infill plans beyond what the City of Winkler already has for infill development guidelines, and so there are density restrictions with regards to those infill guidelines. The City of Winkler is, I guess, subject to the budget approval that is a future hearing today. We'll also be investigating an infill master plan for the City of Winkler, provided the budget gets approved as well. There is limited capacity in terms of sewer servicing in the area, so there isn't going to be, there are certainly more opportunity for infill in other areas of Winkler than there are in
That area.
down Mountain Avenue, for example, like on the far west stretch of that sewer service. So, so it wouldn't be necessarily developed to the same intensity in that area for sure. And so to say for each specific site exactly what that infill can be at this time until that servicing study has been done, we can't say with certainty on with what density that could be. These to Abe's point earlier is that this would be similar infill to what we've seen in other areas within the City of Winkler as well at this point. So.
Okay, thank you, Scott. That gives you what you were looking for, Pete?
I think so.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak to this development? Council have any questions?
Yeah, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, thanks, Abe, for some of your comments. I've seen some of the buildings you've done, and I think from what you're saying, your plans are, it looks impressive. I appreciate your comments on saying you want it to fit into the neighborhood and that you want to save as many trees as possible. Both important, I think, especially in that area. It's quite a wide building, the whole thing. Do you have any idea whether you can save some of the bigger trees that would be in front of that would help to preserve the look of that street?
On the boulevard, there's 5 trees that front this property, and the driveways would require 2 of those trees to be removed. The one, this was already brought to the City of Winkler, and the one is dead and it's on its way out, so that there was no problem with that tree. The other one is obviously a nice looking tree yet, but it's got to go to meet the driveway space. As far as the trees on the north side of the property, they are pretty much on half of my property and half on Jake Jansen's property, I believe it is. And as long as they're not leaning too much to the south that they'll interfere with my my overhangs and my eavesdropping and all stuff, we'll keep as many as possible, yeah.
Thank you.
I would just note as well, and I believe this is noted in the report to council, that when these kind of things happen, we do have a calculator that we use to assess the cost of trees that are removed, and that cost goes to the developer as well.
Okay, that's a good note to have. Thank you, Jody. Anything further from council?
Are there access restrictions for Salem Crescent, like the rear yard access?
That would
Possibly.
be a question for you, Scott, yes.
Like
Again,
if a
Scott
future owner would want to add some type of access there, is there
Yeah,
restrictions?
so, under rare, and I'll say rare exceptions, additional accesses have been provided for residential units, but generally speaking, one access per, residential property is permitted according to the zoning bylaw. And then designated officer could approve additional, but that would be a very rare circumstance.
Okay.
For residential of this nature.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
Not seeing anything further from council, be it resolved that public hearing for conditional use application number CU 2024-003 and variance number VA 2024-004 be closed. Mover.
Andrew?
Second.
Don Friesen.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve conditional use application number CU 2024-003, subject to subdivision approval or party wall agreement and replacement of the sidewalk fronting the property to city standards. Mover.
Don Fair.
Second.
Michael?
Thoughts or comments on this? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variance number VA 2024-004, subject to building permit approval. Mover?
Don Friesen.
Second.
Michael?
Questions? All in favor? Carried. That brings us to our financial plan hearing. This is the culmination of pretty much a year's worth of work, but particularly the last 6 months. It starts with a mini planning meeting in October, where staff bring to council in broad strokes some of the things that they would like to plan for, some of the things that they feel we need to plan for. They request from us some guidance on that. We provide that, and that brings us to our January actual annual planning meeting, and we spend lots of time at that point reviewing what needs to happen. Both staff and council take very, very seriously the awesome responsibility of going to our community and asking them for their money. This is significant. We know that we need to provide what we need today, and we have to make plans for what we're going to need tomorrow in the community that we want to build. There are many things that cost money that need to be done, and we have to be prudent in a way that allows us to build that in a way that our community can afford today, but allows us to also build the community that we all want tomorrow. As we walk through that, I am pleased that we have a city team who works very hard at that. Jody, you and your team, David and his financial team, the work that goes into helping put in front of us what we need to take a look at and what we have to have and what we want to have to build, it makes our job just a tiny bit easier. The fact of the matter, of course, is that things cost more today than they did yesterday. We know that we have to do some things infrastructure-wise, water, wastewater, and others. And we also know that we really want to make sure that we also build some of the amenities that we absolutely need to have. So, I will say now that I'll turn this over to you, David, after we close, or come back to our meeting and actually are able to do so. So we have not, we are still in recess, correct?
Yep, for public hearings,
And need to for this hearing as well?
correct.
Excellent.
Okay, so,
Then David, Jody, if you have any other comments that you'd like to add, or council that you'd like to add before we turn it over to David and his explanation of the plan.
I would echo many of the comments you made, and we're excited that there's people here today. This is something, as Mayor Seaman said, is very important to us, and we want our community to know how seriously we take the budgeting process, and that we very much work with a long-term view of sustainability for our community. We want to be a community who isn't saddling our kids and our grandkids with a future infrastructure deficit that will be impossible for them to handle. That is the case for many communities throughout Canada, many municipalities. We're in a very unique situation where we have a combination of fairly young infrastructure in our city, sound decisions that have been made over some years now to put ourselves in a good position to put reserves away so that we have the money to do the renewal that we need to do. We can only do that because we have staff that are dedicated to that, and we have a council that's dedicated to doing some hard work now to make sure that our kids and grandkids have a good shot at sustainability. And for me, that is actually really exciting. And whether you came for some of the other public hearings or are staying for this, we're glad that you're here, because this is something that that we do every day. We're very vested in it, and so we're very grateful to have David Martins with us. He's our Director of Corporate Services. He puts together the financial plan with input from all of our directors and their departments, and then puts together a nice, tidy presentation to help explain it to all of you. So.
On that note, David, please.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you all for coming out. I very much appreciate that. Like Jody said already, usually we do not have that many people, so thank you very much. There were times actually I was only facing council, so I felt pretty lonely on that year. Today I like to talk a little bit about the financial plan for the city of Winkler that we have prepared for 2024. In this presentation, we'll talk a little bit about assessment. Obviously, we talk about mill rate, and then at the end, we'll also touch and talk about what it means for the average residential and commercial taxpayer in Winkler. How do my taxes for 2024 change compared to 2023? And when we look at this presentation, we focus on the municipal taxes only. Obviously, on the tax bill that we receive at home, we have school taxes on it as well. But that's an amount that's been given to us, to the municipality, to collect and forward on to the schools. So that's why we focus on the municipal portion only. And at this point, we also do not know what that actually will look like on our tax bill with the change on the provincial government. So the first thing that I like to highlight here is our assessment. 2024 is not a reassessment year, and our overall assessment or the property value grew by 1.63%. That's very common or very normal for a non-reassessment year. During a reassessment year, usually we are around to 10% or even above 10%. This year, because it's not a reassessment year, we're at 1.63. So that means if you added something to your house, if you sunroom or a garage or whatever you did, or if somebody built a new building in Winkler, that's what all is included in the 1.63. But it's not that your actual home got reassessed, where the province looks at the value of your home and says actually it has gone up by inflation, by the market, and so on. Overall, if you look at our total assessment for the city of Winkler, we have 30% of those properties are commercial, 55% are residential, and then 13% are other like churches, schools, municipal property, and so on. This shows you now our total assessment that we have. So currently in 2024, the city of Winkler has a total assessment that we use to base our tax on of just over $2 billion. So that's our total assessment base. That includes absolutely every single property in the city of Winkler. And if you go back now to 2015, over the last 10 years, you can see how that has changed. In 2015, we were at roughly 1.2 billion. Right now, we're sitting at 2.2 billion. So you could say over the last 10 years, that has changed by $1 billion. It's not all growth, but also with the market that has increased, but also with inflation, you can see how that all goes up in value. And I think we all feel that every day. And then on the 2024 column, you can also see that the dark blue is the residential assessment at roughly 1.3 to 1.4 billion, and then the commercial at $500 million. The lines that you see, that's the assessment change from year to year. So the green line being the total assessment change in percent. If, for example, this year, 2024, you can see it's roughly around 1.63%. If you go back in 2023, you can see it's above the 10% mark. So last year it was around 12%. And then the 2 years before, because during COVID, the province did not have a reassessment year, there were 2 years actually that they did not reassess the properties. But now, going forward, they're back into that 2-year cycle. So that's why next year in 2025, we will see a reassessment year again. And then obviously that will go up to the roughly 10% mark. I also like to talk a little bit about we call it the asset management plan here at the City of Winkler. And this is now the infrastructure that the City of Winkler has to take care of. And overall, our total infrastructure replacement value is sitting at $373,400,000. So this is the value that the City of Winkler actually owns and has to look after and replace. This includes, like you see on that pie chart, that includes buildings of roughly $100 million. That includes road systems of $105 million. That includes water systems of around $62 million. Wastewater systems and water systems of around $64 million. And then you see some other smaller amounts, and when I say smaller amounts, they're still huge amounts, but compared to the other ones, smaller, like fleet and equipment, stormwater systems, and parks. And this is something that we take into consideration when we approach our budget, when we set the mill rate and the tax increase, because we take this into account that we need to replace this. And it's not that all of this has to be replaced in 2024, but we know it's a matter of time and it will come, and we have to be ready for it. Here is the first slide now where you can see actually the new mill rate for 2024, and the new mill rate is 13.967. So it's a slight increase from last year. Last year the mill rate was at 13.302. But if you compare to 2015, if you go back again 10 years, you can see that over the last 10 years, it consistently comes down on average. And why does it come down again? Because the assessment keeps on growing. That's how the property taxes are being calculated. On the one side, you have the assessment that is being assessed by the province, and then you have the mill rate that's being set by the municipal government, and those two combined give us the amount that the taxpayers are paying on a tax bill, but that we also use to levy the taxes. So when you look at our total debt that we have here at the City of Winkler, we started this year with a total debt amount of $23.52 million, and then you can see the last three current debentures that we have on our books. The first one being Fire Hall at a value of $0.37 million, and why is it so small? Because we make our last and final payment this year, so that's great news. It will come off this list. The second one being the wastewater treatment facility. That has a current balance of $9.18 million, and the final year should be in 2035. And the last one is the Marine Exhibition Center of $13.97 million, and that final payment year should be in 2038. I also like to pay your attention to our average interest rates. Right now it's 3.91%. I think with the current market that we have, it's great to see that this rate is below what you currently would be able to receive at our local financial institutions. This graph shows you now the total budget change, again, over the last 10 years, how it increased from around 15 million in 2015 to right now it's getting closer to the $30 million. And you also see, probably when you look at this, the one line that sticks out to you is the debt line, and had a steep increase from 2018 to 2019, and another one from 2020 to 2021. Those were the 2 years where we added the 2 large debentures that we just saw. In 2018, we added the Meridian Exhibition Center debenture of 17 million, and in 2020, we added the debenture for the wastewater treatment facility of $10.6 million. So right now, it goes down again, and you can see in 2024, it was just over the $21 million. You can also see the green line. This is the reserve line, how that also went up from 2015 from a 10 million to right now, it's sitting by the end of this year, should be around $25 million. And again, this is, the reserves are there to fund our capital projects, and you will later on see when we talk about some of the large capital projects that we have on the books, especially for this year, that they're not getting smaller, they're just getting bigger. And the reserves help us to fund these projects. So this is now where you can see our total municipal budget for 2024. It's $29,251,115. And what I find so exciting about this amount when I look at this chart is that 44% of this total budget, 44% of the total amount that the city of Winkler spends or is planning to spend 2024 is not being levied on the taxes. It's actually the city of Winkler is able to generate 44%, equaling $12.87 million through other revenue. And we will talk about that on the other slide, how that 12.87 million is being calculated. And only 56%, so 16.37 million, is being levied on the taxes. So this is the amount that you see personally on your tax bill, but not the 44 or the 12.87 million. So this is now a breakdown of the 12.87 million that we just saw. So how do we come up with that number? So $4 million for this year, we are able to generate through land sales. Then investments is another $2 million. This is a dollar amount that we can receive through our bank account. Then we have budgeted $300,000 for added taxes. This is when someone puts up a building or commercial or residential, and that is being added to then our assessment base. Then we have another over $400,000 that we receive through protective fees and fines, and this is mainly with our agreement that we have with the Arma Stanley for fire protection. Then we also have almost $4.4 million that we receive from the province and from the federal government in grants, and then another $860,000 almost that we can receive through the recreational, or that we raise through recreational user fees, and then $840,000, just over $840,000 is through other revenue, and part of that includes our recycling rebate that we receive back. Again, this shows you the total budget number of $29.25 million, and just now a chart that shows how much is being allocated to each department. And you can see it starts with administration on the bottom, moves on to the police department, and then on fire and transportation and so on. But the one I really like to highlight is the second highest one, the yellow line, the yellow bar, which says transfer to reserves. And actually, in the next slide, if you move over, you can see that 30% of our total budget actually is being transferred into reserves for capital projects for the future. It could be that some of that will be used already for this year's capital projects, but this is not something that is being allocated to operational or maintenance. This is for capital projects only. And when I prepared this slide, it just excited me to see that 30% of the total budget is being transferred to the reserves. 10% is going towards fiscal services. This is where we pay our debentures from. 10% goes towards administration. And when it says administration, this includes the HR department, the IT department, the communications department, and also then the finance and the admin department. 14% goes towards police, 3% towards fire, 11% of the budget goes towards transportation, 4% for waste disposal, 2% for planning department, and 3% for economic, and then the last one is 14% goes towards the community services. So we talked lots about mill rate, we talked lots about budget, but at the end, you probably wonder, what does that mean for me now? So on average, again, there will be some properties where it will be a little bit higher, there will be some properties where it will be a little bit lower, but on average, you will see a 5% tax increase for 2024, and then it says plus $91, and we excluded the $91 from the 5%, and I will talk about that on the next slide. But on average, municipal taxes in the city of Winkler will increase by 5% in 2024. I just wanted to break that down here on a residential example, and I used $300,000 as the house value. And if you take the portion assessment, which is 45% of the assessed value, and you multiply the mill rate with the assessment divided by 1,000, you come up with the municipal taxes. And in 2024, that amount for this example is $1,885.55, which is about a $90 increase from last year. Then you probably have seen that on your tax bill, that there's a special levy for waste collection, and that increased now as well from $135 to $160 in 2024, which then again gives you a total municipal tax of $2,045.55. In this example that I showed here now on an assessed value of $300,000, it would be a 5.94% percentage increase. And then on the bottom, you can see the healthcare funding of $91. And this is now a levy, a special levy, that will be on the tax bills from 2024 to 2027. And we broke it out, we wanted to show it separately from the percentage increase, because this is a levy that will be on the tax bill only for 4 years. And in 2028, you will see this $91 disappear again, and it will not show up there. That's why we want to break it out. We did not want to see it as a tax increase, but as a special levy to promote healthcare in the region. Here's an example now for commercial property, very much the same to residential. The difference is that the portion assessment is now 65% of your total assessment. Again, you multiply the portion assessment with your mill rate divided by 1,000. You come up with your municipal taxes. In this example, if your commercial property had a value of $1 million, your municipal tax would be $9,078.55, which again is exactly a 5% increase from last year. And the healthcare funding is the same. The healthcare funding is not based on the assessment. It's a flat amount per parcel. So there's no difference if you have a residential property or commercial or institutional. It's the same amount per parcel. That's why also we excluded it, because obviously as the assessed value goes up, the percentage increase of $91 would be a lot smaller than for a smaller assessed house, let's say. So what does that on average represent to someone who likes Tim Hortons or likes to go to Subway? On average, this would mean 50 medium coffees and a donut, or 7 trips to Winnipeg, or if you like Subway, it would be 12 meals at Subway. So that's on average what the tax increase represents. If you have examples that I should include for next year, please. So what do I purchase with my property taxes? We talked lots about what the city now will levy for this year, but what do I as a taxpayer receive back? And so I just like to show the services now. We showed it by department, but also you could break it down by service. And 9%, for example, goes towards general government services. 13% is for police protection. 3% is for fire protection. And 10% is for transportation services, maintaining our roads, keeping them clean, and so on. 2% is for planning services. 2% again is for economic services. 13% goes towards community services, including the arena, the pool, the campground, the parks, and so on. 9% is for the debenture payments. So 9% of your total tax bill that you pay will go towards debenture payments. Again, 28% of your total tax bill is being transferred to reserves. And then 7% of your taxable, which is the $160, is for the waste collection, and 4% from 2024 to 2027 will be for healthcare funding. So what are some of the projects that we as a city have budgeted for this year? First of all, on the utility side, this is now not something that is being generated through the taxes, but through your water bill that you pay. The total budget overall is $4,289,000. And some of the capital projects that we have is to do some upgrades, or we have budget for some utility equipment. We want to do some upgrades on our lift stations. We want to do an upgrade on the Mountain Avenue sewer line, some well replacements, and then also continue with our sewer lining and manhole restoration program. Total budget for this is $2 million. This slide now is probably the slide with the largest dollar amounts that the City of Winkler has ever seen in a financial plan presentation, because it has three large projects on this page that we have budgeted for this year. First one is the water treatment plant, budget amount being $14.6 million. This project has been tendered already, is awarded, and construction will probably start very soon. The second one is the wastewater treatment plant, where we have an approximate budget of $53 million. It's out for tender right now. And then the third one is the Centennial Arena redevelopment, with a preliminary budget of $23.75 million. Like I said, these are large amounts, but that's why it was important, I thought, to show the asset management plan, but also the amounts that we transfer into reserve. This goes hand in hand, because if you look at these dollar amounts, how can you be ready in 1 year if you see these dollar amounts? Some other projects are that we want to do some equipment upgrade on in our public works and on our rec department. We also have a $1.75 million budget for transportation and drainage, and part of that includes the redevelopment of North Railway between Main Street and First Street. And also we want to continue and finish off our Clover Creek Industrial Park development, which will include that Icon Drive will be connected to the highway. Total overall budget for all the projects on the general side are $8.982 million. Again, thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for coming out. I very much appreciate that. And if you have any questions, at this point, council would be so happy to answer them, because I'm off the hook now. No, thank you.
Thank you very much, David, for the presentation, for the work that's gone into the budget, but also now the presentation and bringing it here. To his point, if anybody has comments or questions, now is your opportunity to bring those forward. I'll ask you again, Peter, to come to the microphone.
Have to make you guys sweat a little bit, right?
That's why we have David.
Well, this is probably a question for him. I'm just curious about the transfers to the reserves, the 30% of your budget. Is that sustainable moving into the future? Is this going to be shifting in the future, or is this going to be kind of a flat line moving forward?
What we're seeing there, David, or I'll maybe get David some detail afterwards, but basically what we're seeing is as we need to fund our asset management plan and we find out more what we have and where we are, we know that we have to gradually get to a place that we can fully fund it. At this point in time, we show a deficit of about 5%. It's not immediately due, of course, because not everything is replaced today, but we do have to make sure that we plan for it, and that when we get there, that we're able to do so. That 30% to reserves, that 30% is, as David already mentioned, is also to fund those really large projects that are coming right now. In perpetuity, would we be able to put 30% into reserves? I don't think we could. It would be great if we could, but that's certainly not the plan. The plan is to make sure that we fund the projects that we have on the go that allow us to also fully fund our asset management plan and based on our internal projections, if we want to be careful about how much we come back and ask the community for, we're likely 15-ish years out before we're fully funded. And maybe a little bit less if we have Canada and Manitoba at the table for some various supports as we go. Having the municipal funding freeze lifted will help, because those are dollars we don't have to take from our own budgets anymore. But I think as we look at it and as we move forward, we want to be careful to make sure that we are good financial stewards of where we are. Also recognizing that we cannot go back to the public with ever increasing asks. We don't want to do that. We want to be careful not to do that. But we want to make sure that we have in place an ability to fund what needs to happen. But past that, David, is there anything further, maybe on a detail piece that you'd like to add?
I would just mention one comment. If you look at 2024 and especially the reserves, and you would compare it to years before, it's a bit of an inflated number. And the main reason to that is because we have also on the revenue side have an inflated number on the land sales of $4 million, because we knew already these land sales would come in, and the land sales, that is something that we could directly transfer into reserve, and that's why that 30% is a bit inflated. I would say on a normal year, most likely it would be around 20%.
Thank you.
One more question.
Please.
Can you maybe just explain the rationale as to the health, I forget what you called it.
The
Healthcare
levy,
funding?
rather than putting it on assessment?
Rather than on assessment.
We debated this at great length and wanted to make sure that we placed that care, that request to the community in the fairest way possible. As you know, Pete, the three municipalities agreed together jointly to make the contribution towards the hospital expansion and also to support the healthcare board in some of the work that they needed. Specifically on that piece, our determination was that healthcare is more a people-related than necessarily a business-related piece. So we made the decision to take that number, divide it by the total number of roles that we have in the city of Winkler. So each year that $91 will decrease a little bit as we have more roles. But again, to David's point, it was important for us to show clearly on our tax bill what that was, so people recognized what that dollar figure was and what it was going for, and the fact that it has an end date and needed to come off. When we debated that over the, a year and a half-ish ago, as the requests started to come in, it was a difficult decision, but ultimately we as council determined that the place for that was on individual roles at that number per role.
Thank you.
Really good point that Councillor Fraze just brought up as well. We also knew that there was a significant capital campaign request being made of the corporate community as well, and many of our corporate members were already contributing on a significant basis over and above that as well. So that's a good point. Thank
So then we didn't want to ding them twice.
Any further questions?
Yes, Abel here again. On that resurfacing or redoing of the North Railway there,
Yes.
is there a plan for infrastructure under there already in place? As we see that on the south side of the highway, a lot of the stuff has been, side of the road, a lot of it has been taken down. Is there future planning what's happening there, that the proper sewer waters and all that stuff can be brought in there rather than pave it now and cut it all apart? As when I do projects like this on 14th Street, then yeah, you know, you do your best you can, but to put it back together, you hire professionals who do the work, the sewer water, and repave it. But you know, the weather that we have here and frost, it sometimes just doesn't go in your favor, and now you get these horrible road conditions. And if we're doing it once, I think you do it right the first time and it
You
goes a
have
long way.
an excellent question there, Abe. As you do know, when you drive down North Railway, the south side of it, it's wide open and in the process, by the looks of it, of being redeveloped. We do have a plan for it, but I will give Scott Taves a chance to speak specifically to the exact scope of work that is being planned there.
Scott Taves here again. In response to the question about North Railway specifically, we've been in contact with the landowners adjacent to that, and before the road gets torn up and replaced, we have asked them to plan out their pre-servicing so that they're able to install that in the correct locations for their anticipated buildings. We anticipate that would go in before the road construction will be completed. The sewer line in that area was replaced in 2016 already, and then the sewer line, or sorry, the water line is still in relatively good condition there as well. So that being said, things can still happen and still break, but we have planned for the underground infrastructure to be renewed and service the adjacent landowners appropriately. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Scott.
I would add, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that's an excellent question by somebody who knows what this looks like if in fact you have to go back in afterwards and do it. And no matter how careful you are, there is always that element of risk involved. So in this instance, definitely in a road renewal in an area that's also going to be renewed, the plans are in place to mitigate that. But it is a really good question. Thank you.
Is it asphalt or concrete?
We're planning asphalt.
Yeah, and just to add, that's not atypical of how we plan. Like we typically look, when we're looking at our road renewal program, we're also looking at the sewer and services that are underneath it, and we try to time it so that we're doing it in the right order, and if we can, very much at the same time, so that we're not digging up a brand new road, like you say. So we do a lot of analysis and evaluation to make sure that we coordinate those projects together.
Just add also, Jody, is when we're looking at putting on let's say an asphalt base, we want to make sure that it is a quality of asphalt base that will handle the traffic on there as well. It's not like your residential road. We're are going to be making it into a type of road that will handle the traffic.
Yeah, and your question about asphalt is good because it is currently concrete, and we've done very in-depth analysis to look at the renewal costs and the total life cycle cost of those roads, including renewals, and found that this was a better option for us. And it's actually a growing trend that we're seeing across the country, is that we're starting to see asphalt become better in terms of long-term total cost of that asset.
And part and parcel of that, of course, is the spring that we've had for the last 3 months. The freeze thaw, freeze thaw, freeze
Yeah.
thaw. It just does horrible work on roads and streets. And if you're out there at all driving, you see what it's done in our community and elsewhere.
And in fact, to your very question, like if there is ever a break or something that you have to dig up the street to get at, it's much more economical to do it when it's asphalt than to do it when it's concrete.
Any further thoughts or comments on the budget?
Hi, John Funk again. Sort of related to the budget, sort of related to general City of Winkler business. It's been a couple of years since we had the election, and during the election, I heard a number of candidates talking about the addition of transit to the City of Winkler and the Pembina Valley area. I happen to have grown up in Winnipeg, where the transit system was really convenient for me, and I made good use of it. As I drive around Winkler, I'm finding that I'm needing to drive further and further and further to actually get to the edge of it. Thinking when you go past Burger King and out into the northwest corner, it's a long way away from the airport. And with the addition of the low-cost housing variant that just passed, variance, I'm seeing an increased need for something other than pickup trucks.
You will be
So
very happy to note that in our budget this year, we have dollars put aside towards that
Excellent.
to take that first step into providing public transportation of a kind. So we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's in terms of exactly what that will be.
Excellent.
Our expectation today is that somewhere late this year, we will offer a subsidized rideshare service
Okay,
that will allow us to get the information that we need to determine what that next step should look like and how quickly we move to that next step. But we have put dollars towards it this year. We've made some application for some grants as well that we're hoping will come through that will support that. But in 2024, barring something really weird happening, there will be a public transportation option of a kind in the city of Winkler.
oh, excellent. That's very good news. I haven't always kept up on every single thing that happens with the city of Winkler, but that is one of the things that I've been looking forward to.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I think Scott has a comment probably related specifically to this.
Yeah, so if you're looking for more information, you could also go to our website where I think our public transportation feasibility study is actually saved on it, and it describes the public transportation progression strategy that Henry was, or Mayor Siemens was referring to. My apologies. Yeah.
Thank you for that additional information, Scott. Any additional comments on the financial plan? I'll ask a final time if anybody has additional comments on the financial plan.
From
Not seeing anybody else
From
in
here?
chambers, by all means, Mr. Blythe.
Thank you very much. I heard David say a number of times how excited he was about some of the numbers. I find it very exciting when I meet people that are excited about numbers, because that's an interesting phenomenon. But I think really the excitement is more the fact. For me, the excitement is more the fact that all the departments work so hard together to find a way forward for the city to grow and to make a presentation to council to help us see what information is available for us, and so that with the best information we had, we were able to make the decisions that I think are very good at making moving us ahead. And I just echo some of the comments that both the mayor and the city manager made on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Further thoughts? Be it resolved that the public hearing for the 2024 financial plan be closed. Mover.
Andrew?
Second.
Don Friesen?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the 2024 financial plan be approved. Mover.
Andrew?
Second.
Don Friesen?
Comments? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the tax levy bylaw number 2317 be read a first time. Mover?
Don Fair?
Second.
Michael?
Comments? All in favor? Carried. That takes us to, be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council reconvene. Mover.
Michael?
Second.
Marvin?
All in favor? Carried. And that brings us to questions from the media or public relevant to this meeting of council. Not seeing any in chambers. Not seeing anything online. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned. Mover.
Andrew?
Second.
I'll help out.
Don Fair. All in favor? Carried. For a minute there, I thought we were gonna have to stay overnight.
Yep.
Close this thing.